But I think the heartful part, and I wanted to weave this back in as I mentioned, the heartful part is really coming to a deeper sense within oneself about the genuine, not only possibility, but actuality that what you are may not be lacking in the way parts of your mind or person might conclude, that the moment may not be lacking in the way that many assume. Now, this is something that I'm proposing that you examine and check out. Like you don't, as Adi would say, you don't have to take my word for it. It's more important that you really look into this deeply. And this goes for longtime practitioners as well. There may be aspects of a person's life in which there is a presumed sense of lack in themselves as a person or in their life as it's presenting, or in the world. And I don't mean to get into any sort of debate about this. I mean, clearly there's things that are drastically off in our shared human world, on in the various arenas of living, whether it be the the family system, or the the political systems, or whatever, the ecosystems, certainly. So this is not this is not the topic that I'm addressing right now. What I'm speaking about is more of an existential sense of lack that can sometimes be so assumed, often because there's such a strong habit to grasp that it's almost as though the grasping forgot why it needed to grasp. It just is so conditioned to grasp after things that it assumes we need. And there's sometimes a forgetting or a misunderstanding that what started the grasping was this conclusion that something was missing or lacking. And so I think that not only is this approach to meditation about giving broader pastures for the mind, or even perhaps if you're using concentration techniques, a more dedicated focus for the mind, but it's also about this this relationship to meditation. And ultimately, I think that's rooted in a relationship that we have with our own sense of self and our presumed needs and sense of lack. And so often, yearning for awakening, for liberation, that this person was saying can be said to be, I think they use the word longing. Yeah, longing can be said to arise out of the ground of being. And sometimes Adya has, and sometimes myself have spoken about it in that way. But often there's an interpretation that longing that almost feels like it comes from below the ground, that's associated with ground, below is associated with ground, and rises up as almost like a kind of hunger, and hunger is associated with that which needs to be filled. And we may assume that it needs to be filled with some notion that's an objectification of mind, or a material object or a person or whatever it might be. But what can be really interesting is when we turn into the longing becomes filled with our attention. And this turn is an opportunity to offer our present, listening, seeing, attention into the longing, into the yearning. And I mean, we see this on a physical level, sometimes like, even the child that's like, trying to pull at his mother's shirt or her skirts, or, there's just that way of wanting to pull toward to get attention. And that's really, as I see it, kind of the mechanism of the longing is it's actually trying to pull our attention into it. But as Adi has pointed out, so often that kind of yearning that feels like it's going up and out tends to direct our attention up and out and into a sense of the outer world and into the sense of future. But it's important, I think, in meditation, especially the kind of meditation where there's that sense of looking within. And it's important to realize that power of attention and the gift of your being present to that call of longing is in of itself very replete. That when you give the full measure of your attention, that's very satisfying in terms of reconnecting and joining your attention in a deeper unity with the very source of that longing.